For 3 years of our marriage, my wife, Ava Sterling, the CEO of a goddamn empire, was an ice queen to everyone. Everyone except the new male assistant, Caleb Evans. Caleb had this choir boy face, but everything he did just rubbed me the wrong way. I went to pick Ava up from work one evening and walked right into a little scene. Caleb was standing there, handing her a file with his eyes all red-rimmed, his voice syrupy sweet. "Ms. Sterling, it's all my fault. I'm so stupid, I can't even get this right. Please don't be angry with Leo." I didn't say a word, but I felt my blood start to boil. What really set me off, though, was that Ava actually took the file and just said a clipped, "I see." That night, the more I thought about it, the more it ate at me. Finally, I just snapped. "Let's get a divorce," I said. The words had barely left my mouth when the eternal iceberg finally cracked. Her eyes went bloodshot, and her nails dug in my arm so hard I thought they'd draw blood. She was trembling all over, repeating the same 4 words like a mantra. "You can't leave me." The first day Caleb reported to the office, I happened to be dropping off some papers for Ava. He was wearing a crisp white button-down, sleeves rolled to his forearms, revealing pale, slender wrists. When he smiled, his eyes curved into little crescents, tinged with just the right amount of shyness. He looked like he wouldn't hurt a fly. He walked right up and offered me his hand. "You must be Leo, Ms. Sterling's husband," he said, his voice soft. "She mentions you all the time. Says you're incredibly thoughtful." I glanced over at Ava, who was staring at her monitor behind her massive desk, her expression a perfect blank. "She mentions me? When?" But I played along, shaking his hand. "Nice to meet you." Later that afternoon, when I came back to get her, Caleb was standing outside her office door holding a thermos. His tone was fawning. "Ms. Sterling, I noticed you seemed a bit under the weather today. I made you some herbal tea with honey. Would you like to try it?" Ava looked up at him, her gaze flat. She didn't take it. "No, thank you." Caleb's smile faltered for a second before snapping back into place. He set the thermos on a side table. "Well, I'll leave it here, just in case you change your mind." He shot me a little look, a flicker in his eyes, as if showing off how considerate he was. I ignored him, took Ava's hand, and let her out. I could feel his sticky gaze on our backs the whole way down the hall. After Caleb's arrival, this kind of thing became a daily occurrence. Before the weekly board meeting, he'd have all the materials perfectly organized, a cup of coffee at exactly the right temperature waiting at Ava's seat. He'd tell the other executives, "Ms. Sterling has been working so hard lately. We need to take care of her." One day, Ava wore a new dress. Caleb saw it and put on a show of surprise. "Ms. Sterling, that dress is gorgeous on you. But isn't the neckline a little low? What if you catch a cold?" And then he actually reached out as if to adjust her collar. Ava took a sharp step back, avoiding his hand. Her eyes went glacial. "My affairs are not your concern." His hand froze in midair. A wounded expression crossed his face, his eyes welling up. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Sterling. I didn't mean anything by it. I was just worried about you." The colleagues nearby exchanged subtle glances. I'd been waiting in Ava's office to take her to lunch and saw the whole thing. A hot flare of anger shot through me. I walked over, wrapped my arm around Ava's waist, and glared at Caleb. "Since when is what my wife wears any of your business?" He flinched, then quickly defaulted to his innocent victim routine, turning to Ava. "Ms. Sterling, I think your husband might have misunderstood. I honestly didn't mean any harm." Ava patted the back of my hand, a silent signal to stand down. She looked at Caleb. "You can go now." Caleb bit his lip, looking like he was about to burst into tears, and slowly backed out of the room. Before the door closed, he cast one last look at Ava, an expression of profound injustice on his face. I snorted. It's so obvious he's doing it on purpose. What a manipulative little snake. Ava didn't say anything. She just picked up her coffee and took a sip, her gaze unreadable. Finding no success with Ava, Caleb started targeting me. One day, I was at the company, and he intercepted me, holding a file and feigning helplessness. "Leo, could you look this over for me?" "Ms. Sterling said you're an expert in this area, and I'm terrified I'll mess it up and get chewed out." I took the file and glanced through it. It was basic stuff, entry level. I handed it back. "You can handle this yourself. Stop trying to pass your work off on others." He hung his head, his voice muffled. "I just don't want to disappoint her. Can't you just help me? Take pity on a fresh out of college newbie." His act was making my skin crawl. I was about to refuse when Ava's voice cut through from her office. "Caleb, get in here." His eyes lit up. He shot me a quick smile and scurried into her office with the file. When I followed him in, I heard Ava say, "If you can't even handle a simple task like this, what good are you as an assistant?" Caleb stood with his head bowed. "I'm sorry, Ms. Sterling. I'll be more careful next time." Then he shot a furtive glance at me, as if to say, "This is all your fault for not helping me." I couldn't be bothered with him. I just sank into the sofa and scrolled through my phone. Back home that night, I couldn't stop replaying Caleb's two-faced performance in my head. At the office, he was all about making Ava coffee and dropping passive-aggressive comments about me. The whole routine was nauseating. But what really bothered me was that Ava, who would normally annihilate anyone who crossed the line, was just tolerating him. She wasn't warm, but she wasn't shutting him down either. I sat on the couch, watching her work at her desk across the room. She was in a black silk robe, her hair loosely pinned up, revealing the delicate line of her neck. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. The profile of her face as sharp and beautiful as ever. But thinking about how she'd been with Caleb, a knot of irritation tightened in my stomach. On a whim, a wicked little idea popped into my head. I let out a loud, theatrical sigh, just enough to get her attention. Her typing didn't pause. She didn't even look up. "What is it?" she asked, her tone flat. I suppressed a grin, forcing my face into a mask of misery. "Ava," I said, drawing out her name, "maybe we should get a divorce." The words hung in the air, and the room fell dead silent. The rapid-fire click of the keyboard stopped. It was like someone had hit the mute button on the universe. After a few seconds that stretched into an eternity, she slowly turned her chair. The sound of its legs scraping against the hardwood floor was grating. Her face was blank, but her eyes looked like they'd been flash-frozen. They were fixed on me. "What did you say?" I fought to keep a straight face and leaned further into my act, shrinking into the couch cushions like a kicked puppy. "It's just the way you've been lately, so tolerant of Caleb. Today in the break room, he was telling people I'm not good enough for you, that I'm just a kept man living off your money. He's practically walking all over me, and you don't do anything about it." I paused, watching her expression. Her brow furrowed slightly. I decided to add more fuel to the fire. "I'm starting to think you're tired of me. Maybe you think Caleb is better, and you want to trade up? If that's the case, we might as well just—" "Shut up." Her voice was a whip crack, cutting me off. She slammed her laptop shut with a loud bang that made me jump. In a flash, she was out of her chair and across the room, moving so fast she was just a blur of black silk. Before I could process what was happening, her hand shot out and clamped around my wrist. Her fingers were like a steel vise, her nails digging into my flesh. I sucked in a sharp breath through my teeth. "Who gave you the right to say something like that?" Her eyes were laced with a terrifying web of red. The cool, detached gaze she usually wore was gone, replaced by a raging inferno of raw panic and obsessive fury. Her chest heaved with ragged, shallow breaths. The high and mighty CO had vanished, and in her place was something wild and desperate. "I was just kidding," I stammered, the prank gone horribly wrong. My little joke had evaporated, leaving only a cold dread. I tried to pull my wrist back, but her grip was unbreakable. "Kidding," she sneered, and the sound was half a laugh, half a sob. It sent a shiver down my spine. "You think divorce is something to joke about?" She yanked me off the couch with impossible strength. I stumbled, nearly falling, but she held me fast, pulling me so close our faces were inches apart. I could see every frantic, bloodshot vessel in her eyes, could feel the overwhelming, suffocating force of her possessiveness. "Listen to me," she said, her voice low and fierce, each word a poison dart. "I will never divorce you. You are mine in life, and you will be mine in death. The only way you're leaving me is in a body bag." Her stare was predatory, like she wanted to consume me whole. It was then that I truly understood. I hadn't just pushed a button, I had detonated a bomb. I'm sorry," I pleaded, my voice cracking. I used my free hand to pry at her fingers. "I was just jealous because of Caleb. I was being an idiot. I don't want a divorce, Ava. I swear to God, I don't." It was like she couldn't even hear me. She was still crushing my wrist, but then a tear fell. Then another. Hot drops of water splashing onto the back of my hand. "How could you say that?" Her voice was choked with emotion. Her head sagged forward, her forehead pressing against my chest. "Do you have any idea how terrified I was when I heard you say that?" Her whole body was shaking, as if she were in the throes of a violent seizure. "You're all I have." She mumbled into my chest, her voice thick and nasal. "If you don't want me anymore, what's the point of any of this?" Her sobs ripped through me, and the pain in my wrist and the fear in my gut were instantly replaced by a wave of aching tenderness. I wrapped my free arm around her, stroking her back gently, murmuring into her hair. I'm so sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have said it. I'm not leaving you. I'm never leaving you." Ava suddenly pulled her head back. Tears streamed down her face, but her eyes held a new, unsettling light that made my stomach drop. "Really?" she asked. Really, I said, nodding emphatically. Cross my heart. She stared at me for a few long seconds, then abruptly released my wrist and strode into the bedroom. I was wondering what the hell she was doing when she reappeared, a thin black silk cord in her hand. The air rushed out of my lungs. What are you doing with that? I stammered, a cold dread creeping up my spine. She didn't answer. She walked right up to me, and before I could react, began tying my wrists together. Her movements were fast and efficient, the knots brutally tight, binding my hands securely behind my back. Ava, what the hell are you doing? Let me go. I struggled against the cord, but it was cinched too tight. It was useless. She finally looked up, her face still tear-streaked, but her eyes were unnervingly steady, glowing with a strange, feverish excitement. Since you said you're never going to leave me, she said, her voice a soft caress as she reached up to trace my jawline with her cool fingertips. I'm just going to help you remember that promise. Her other hand grabbed my arm, and she started pulling me toward the bedroom. I stumbled after her, half furious, half terrified. Ava, you're insane. Let me go. I am insane, she said, glancing back at me with a chilling little smile. I've been ever since the day I fell in love with you. She dragged me to the edge of the bed and pushed me down, then turned and locked the bedroom door. The click of the lock echoed in the silent room. What do you want? I asked, my heart hammering against my ribs as she advanced on me. Ava knelt before me, her eyes sparkling like dark stars. I want to make you remember that you're mine, she whispered. Her fingers moved to my shirt, deftly undoing the top 2 buttons, her nails grazing my skin. Only mine. Her lips crashed down on mine. The kiss was desperate and punishing, tasting of salt and obsession, as if she were trying to brand me with her mouth. I was dizzy, disoriented, my hands bound and useless behind me. Ava, I gasped, trying to reason with her. Let's just talk. We don't have to do this. She ignored me, her kisses growing more frantic. Her hands weren't idle, either, moving down my chest, unbuttoning my shirt the rest of the way. You thought I was too tolerant of Caleb, didn't you? She murmured against my skin, her voice laced with a dark challenge. Well, let me show you the difference between how I treat you and how I treat everyone else. Her hand stroked my chest, then her fingers suddenly dug in, pinching hard. I hissed in pain, glaring at her. You. Does it hurt? She asked, her eyes devoid of pity, filled instead with a disturbing satisfaction. Good. Now you'll remember. Only I get to touch you like this. She lowered her head again, kissing a path from my neck to my chest, leaving a trail of angry red marks in her wake. Caleb is nothing, she said between kisses, her words slurring with intensity. He's not even worthy of polishing your shoes. I only let him stick around because I wanted to see how far he would go, and I wanted to see if you'd get jealous. She lifted her head, her eyes shining. You're actually pretty cute when you're jealous. A hysterical laugh escaped me. So she knew exactly what Caleb was doing all along. She was just watching the show, using him to test me. You're assertive, I started to say, but her mouth smothered the word. This kiss was different. It was softer, more possessive than punishing, tinged with a desperate, careful tenderness. After a long moment, she pulled back, resting her forehead against mine, our breaths mingling. Don't ever talk about divorce again, okay? She whispered, a raw plea in her voice. I really can't handle it. Looking into her reddened eyes, my anger melted away, leaving only a bone-deep weariness and a surge of pity. I nodded. Okay, I won't. A radiant smile broke across her face, as pure and happy as a child's. She stood up and untied the cord. Deep red lines circled my wrists where the silk had bitten into my skin. When Ava saw them, her expression darkened, and her eyes grew misty again. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice thick with guilt as she gently traced the marks. I hurt you. She looked up, her eyes bright again. But until I'm absolutely sure you won't leave me, I'm going to have to keep a close watch on you. She leaned in and captured my lips again. Moonlight streamed through a gap in the curtains, illuminating the room. I could feel her warmth, her heartbeat, and the crushing weight of her obsessive, terrifying love. I let out a quiet sigh and pulled her into a tight embrace. The next day at the office, Caleb acted as if nothing had happened, sidling up to me as soon as I arrived. A little later, he came out of the break room and accidentally spilled a glass of water all over my pants. Oh my God, Leo, I'm so sorry, he cried, rushing over with a wad of paper towels. It was an accident. Are you okay? His hands started dabbing at my pants, lingering far too long, his touch deliberately suggestive. I smacked his hand away. I've got it, I said coldly. Ava looked up from her desk. Her eyes flickered from the wet spot on my pants to Caleb's face. Her voice was calm, devoid of any emotion. Caleb, Go to HR and collect your final paycheck. You don't need to come in tomorrow. Caleb's face froze. He stared at her in disbelief. Ms. Sterling, please don't fire me. I know I made a mistake. I'll never do it again. Ava ignored him, her attention already back on her documents. He grew desperate, rushing to her side, reaching for her arm. Ms. Sterling, please, just give me one more chance. I love this job and I really admire you. The last few words were a breathy whisper, loaded with insinuation. Ava shot to her feet, her eyes as cold and hard as diamonds. I'll say it one more time. Get out. Her aura of pure menace made him stumble backward. Finally, the tears he'd been holding back began to fall. Ms. Sterling, why are you being so cruel to me? Is it just because I accidentally spilled some water on your husband? But it really wasn't on purpose. He was still playing the victim. I was so sick of it, I grabbed a nearby broom and brandished it at him. Are you going to leave, or do I have to make you? That finally scared him. He ran out of the office, sobbing dramatically. I thought we were done with him, but the day after he was fired, Caleb showed up at our front door. I was in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find him standing there, holding a bouquet of roses, his face tear-stained and gaunt. Leo, he said, his voice weak. Can I just talk to Miss Sterling for a minute? I scowled. She doesn't want to see you. You should go. Please, he begged, holding out the flowers. Just for a few minutes. I'll leave right after. I bought these for her, white roses. They're her favorite. Before I could answer, Ava appeared, leaning against the doorframe, her expression unreadable. You have something to say? Caleb's face lit up. He thrust the bouquet toward her. Ms. Sterling, these are for you. I'm so sorry for everything. I shouldn't have caused you so much trouble. Can you please forgive me? I can't lose this job. I can't stand not being able to see you. He was getting more agitated, trying to push his way inside. Ava blocked him with her body, a flicker of disgust in her eyes. You think I don't know what you're trying to do? He froze. Ms. Sterling, I was just trying to apologize. Apologize? Ava let out a short, cold laugh. Did you really think I wouldn't see through your pathetic little act? Playing the innocent victim in front of me, flirting with him behind my back, trying to drive a wedge between us so you could make your move? The color drained from Caleb's face. His lips trembled. Ms. Sterling, you've misunderstood. I didn't. Didn't you? Ava took a step forward, backing him up, her gaze as sharp as a scalpel. The way you looked at me, the things you said, the stunts you pulled, every second of it was a performance. You thought because I'm cold, I must be stupid? You thought I wouldn't notice your disgusting little ambitions. He was terrified now, stumbling backward, nearly tripping. Do you know why I didn't shut you down from the start? Ava's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, laced with a chilling amusement. I wanted to see just how long you could keep up the act. I want to see how spectacularly you would fail. She paused, her eyes landing on the roses in his hand. Her voice turned to ice. And another thing, I've never liked white roses. I prefer red, the kind with thorns. The bouquet slipped from Caleb's nerveless fingers and fell to the ground. He stared at Ava as if seeing her for the first time, his face a mask of pure terror. Get out, Ava said. The word was quiet, but it carried the weight of a death sentence. Caleb didn't need to be told twice. He turned and fled, nearly tripping over his own feet as he scrambled away. Watching his pathetic retreat, I stepped up beside Ava and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. So you knew all along? She leaned into my embrace, the icy armor she wore moments ago melting away, replaced by a sort of lazy, possessive comfort. His act was amateur hour. She looked up at me, her eyes glinting with that familiar ownership. Besides, you're mine. No one gets to even think about taking you from me. Anyone who tries has to be ready to face the consequences. I smiled and pressed a kiss to her forehead. You're terrifying. You know that. Ava just huffed and pulled me back inside. Are you cooking? I'm starving. Almost done. I made your favorite, braised short ribs. Good. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling across our clasped hands, warm and solid. As for Caleb, he was already forgotten, a pathetic little clown who wasn't even worth a second thought. After Caleb's spectacular implosion, I figured he'd finally get the message. But the guy was like gum on a shoe. About a week later, I was at the grocery store down the street picking up some soy sauce when I heard someone call my name. I turned around. It was Caleb, standing in the aisle with a bottle of vinegar in his hand, looking at me with a complicated expression. He'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Leo, he said, his voice raspy, stripped of its former cloying softness. I frowned, turned, and started to walk away. He hurried after me, blocking my path. Leo, can I just talk to you for a second? Just a few words. I have nothing to say to you. I sidestepped him and kept walking. He scrambled after me again, his voice edged with desperation. I know I messed up. I shouldn't have gone after Ava, and I shouldn't have tried to get to you. But I genuinely have feelings for her. I can't help it. I stopped and turned to face him, an incredulous laugh bubbling up inside me. You have feelings for her? Do you have any idea what kind of person she is? He looked confused. I know she's a good person. She was a little harsh with me, but I'm sure that's just because she doesn't know the real me. Huh. I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. Are you delusional? It's not that she doesn't know you. It's that she doesn't care about you. In her eyes, your little schemes are about as threatening as a toddler's temper tantrum. His face flushed a deep, blotchy red. That's not true, he sputtered, clearly hitting a nerve. She's not like that. You just brainwashed her. I've brainwashed her. I raised an eyebrow. Fine. You think you've got what it takes? Go for it. But don't come crying to me when you end up in a ditch somewhere. With that, I grabbed the soy sauce and headed for the checkout. I could hear him shouting behind me. You just wait? I'm going to make her see you for who you really are. I didn't bother looking back. The guy was a lost cause. I told Ava about the run-in at the store when I got home. She was in the middle of a face mask, and she paused for a beat when I mentioned Caleb was still lurking around. Noted was all she said. You're not worried he's going to pull something? She peeled the mask off, revealing her flawless skin, and turned to face me with a playful glint in her eye. What's he going to do? All he's capable of are cheap shots and petty drama. She walked over and looped her arms around my neck, resting her chin on my chest. Besides, I'm here. Who would dare touch you? There was again that fierce, possessive look that was both terrifying and strangely reassuring. Oh, she said, as if suddenly remembering something. There's a company gala tomorrow night. You're coming with me. I don't know, Ava. It's a work thing. I won't know anyone. Her brow furrowed, and her tone became non-negotiable. You have to come. She paused, then added, I want everyone to know that you belong to me. I knew what this was about. She was worried Caleb was spreading rumors and wanted to make a public statement. I sighed in resignation. Fine, I'll go. The next evening, I found myself in a tuxedo at a lavish hotel ballroom, surrounded by New York's business elite. Ava was a vision in a floor-length black gown, her hair swept up in an elegant chignon, her presence commanding the attention of the entire room. I felt like an accessory at her side, but she kept her arm linked through mine, moving through the crowd with effortless grace, pulling me into conversations and whispering comments in my ear. The display of affection was clearly raising eyebrows. In their world, Ava Sterling was the untouchable ice queen. While she was chatting with a partner from a venture capital firm, I saw him out of the corner of my eye. Caleb. He was standing in a dark corner in an ill-fitting suit, his eyes fixed on us, his expression radiating pure venom. My stomach clenched. I nudged Ava and nodded in his direction. She followed my gaze, her expression unchanging, but I saw her fingers tighten around the stem of her champagne flute. How did he even get in here? I whispered. He probably bribed a busboy, she said coolly. She set her glass down, took my hand, and started walking straight toward him. Caleb saw us coming and tried to shrink back into the shadows, but it was too late. Ava stopped right in front of him, her voice dripping with ice. We'll let you in. His face went pale. I came with a friend. He works here. Is that so? Ava arched an eyebrow and gestured to a nearby security guard. Get him out of here. The guard moved in immediately, grabbing Caleb by the arms. He started to struggle, his voice rising to a panicked shout. Ms. Sterling, you can't do this. I really love you. It's him. He's the one who's been poisoning you against me. He pointed a shaking finger at me, his eyes wild. The commotion had drawn a crowd. People were staring, whispering. Ava's face grew colder, and then she laughed, a sound completely devoid of warmth. Poisoning me? You flatter yourself. She took a step closer, leaning in to whisper so only the three of us could hear. Do you know what I did after you showed up at my home? Caleb stared at her, his eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and fear. I had someone look into you, Ava murmured, her voice a silken threat. Your parents' little construction business back in Ohio. I hear they're having some trouble with their credit line. It would be a real shame if all of their suppliers suddenly started demanding cash on delivery, wouldn't it? The blood drained from Caleb's face. He stood there, limp and trembling, unable to speak. Get out, Ava repeated, straightening up. This time, Caleb didn't fight. He let the security guard drag him away like a broken doll. The onlookers were stunned into silence. Ava, however, turned back to the crowd as if nothing had happened, linked her arm through mine, and smiled graciously. My apologies for the interruption, everyone. As if the woman who had just threatened to ruin a man's family wasn't her. Watching her, I suddenly understood why so many people were terrified of her. In the car on the way home, I finally broke the silence. Were you serious? About his parents? Ava leaned her head back against the seat, her eyes closed. Of course, she said calmly. With people like him, you have to threaten what they care about. It's the only way to make them stop. Isn't that a little? I trailed off, not wanting to say monstrous. She opened her eyes and looked at me, a flicker of hurt in her gaze. You think I went too far? No, I said quickly. I just think he's not worth the effort. He is, she countered, her voice taking on that familiar, intense edge. He wanted to take you away from me. That is a direct threat against my entire world. Anyone who touches what's mine gets destroyed. I don't care what it takes. She squeezed my hand, her grip tight. I can't lose you. There is no acceptable level of risk. Looking into her deadly serious eyes, I felt a knot of complicated emotions. I knew she did it for me, but the sheer ruthlessness of it was still chilling. It's over now, I said, patting her hand. He won't bother us again. Her expression softened slightly. She nodded and leaned her head on my shoulder. The car was quiet, the city lights blurring past the window. This, I thought with a silent sigh, was the price of being loved by a woman like Ava Sterling. Caleb, true to form, was never heard from again. Life settled back into its quiet rhythm. I spent my days reading, working out, and sometimes picking Ava up from the office. It was peaceful, except now, the possessiveness in Ava's eyes was a constant, burning flame. She barely let me go anywhere alone. A trip to the corner store for a bottle of wine required either her company or a driver trailing me like a shadow. My college roommate came to town, and a few of us planned to grab some beers. When I told Ava, she didn't say anything, but her expression soured. When I got home that night, I found her sitting in the living room in complete darkness. It scared the hell out of me. Why aren't you asleep? I asked, reaching for the light switch. She grabbed my hand, her eyes gleaming in the dark. Where were you? Who were you with? Men? Women? Her tone was an interrogation, threaded with a tremor of panic. My heart sank. I knew she was spinning out. Just my old college buddies, I explained calmly. All guys. We just had a few drinks, caught up. Ava was silent for a moment. Then she pulled me into a crushing hug, burying her face in my chest. Don't see them anymore. Why not? I don't like it, she mumbled. I don't want you being close to other people. I just want you here with me. I sighed. Arguing was pointless. Her world was small, meticulously curated, with room for only one other person. Okay, I conceded. I'll cut back on the guys' nights. That seemed to satisfy her. She smiled and tilted her head up to kiss me. I knew you would. You're the best. Seeing her happy, I felt a strange mix of resignation and an odd sort of fulfillment. Maybe being the sole object of such an extreme, all-consuming devotion wasn't entirely a bad thing. Half a year went by. Caleb Evans was a ghost, a name from a past life. I sometimes wondered what became of him, but never enough to ask. Ava's company continued to expand, and she got busier, but no matter how late she came home, she'd always curl up against me first, as if needing physical proof that I was still there. One afternoon, while organizing the study, I found a leather-bound journal in one of Ava's desk drawers. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. The pages were filled with notes all about me. He made his short ribs tonight. They were delicious, but he didn't eat much. Was something wrong with them? I'll find a new recipe for next time. He watched a movie today. The lead actress had a beautiful smile. Does he like women who look like that? I feel unsettled. That Caleb is a parasite, always trying to get between us. I need to find a permanent solution. He mentioned divorce today. I was so scared, I almost lost control. I can never let him think that way again. I have to watch him more closely. I turned page after page, a heavy feeling settling in my chest. Every tiny detail of my life, she had recorded it, analyzed it. Her so-called tolerance of Caleb wasn't tolerance at all. It was observation, gathering data before eliminating threat. Her talk of tying me up hadn't been a joke. On the last written page, there was a single sentence. He is my son, the only reason I exist. If anyone ever tries to extinguish my light, I will drag them down to hell with me. A chill traced its way down my spine. But strangely, I felt no urge to run. Instead, I felt a bizarre sense of destiny. To be loved by someone like this was both a terrifying burden and a profound privilege. I placed the journal back where I found it and acted as if nothing had happened. When Ava got home that night, I met her at the door like always. She kicked off her heels, wrapped her arms around my waist, and nuzzled against me like a cat. Such a long day. How about a hot bath? I said, stroking her hair. Perfect, she smiled. As I watched her walk toward the bathroom, I made a silent vow. Ice Queen, obsessive lover, whatever she was my wife. Her love might be extreme, even dangerous, but it was real. I would stay, I would protect her, and I would carry the weight of that love. After her bath, she came out in her robe, her hair dripping. I took the blow-dryer and began to dry it for her. The warm air billowed through the dark strands. She closed her eyes, a contented smile on her lips. "You're so good to me," she murmured. "Of course I am. I'm your husband." When her hair was dry, I carried her to bed and tucked her in. She grabbed my hand, refusing to let go. "Stay with me. Always." I lay down beside her, and she immediately molded herself against me, holding on tight, as if afraid I might vanish in the night. "Good night," she whispered into my chest. "Good night," I replied, kissing her forehead. In the darkness, I listened to the steady rhythm of her breathing. I knew this life would always be a gilded cage, a little suffocating at times, but I was content, because I knew that nowhere else in this world would I find another person who would love me with every fiber of her being. Years passed. Our life remained quiet. Ava's obsessive tendencies mellowed, but only slightly. She still bristled if I spoke to another woman for too long, still found ways to track my whereabouts, still held me like a lifeline while we slept. But I was used to it. It was her language of love. Sometimes I wondered what my life would have been like without her. Probably normal. A simple marriage, kids, a quiet, unremarkable existence. But that life would have been missing something. It would have been missing this. This terrifying, breathtaking, all-consuming love. On a vacation in Italy, we were in a small Tuscan town when we met an American expat. In the course of conversation, it turned out he knew of Caleb Evans. "Poor guy, really," the man said with a sigh. "Heard he went into business with some partners who cleaned him out, racked up a mountain of debt, and ended up losing his parents' construction company in the process. Disappeared after that. No one knows where he is now." Ava and I exchanged a look. Neither of us said a word. I knew, without a doubt, that this was her doing. But I felt no anger, only a faint, distant pity for him. That was the price for crossing her. As the sun began to set, Ava and I sat on a bench in the piazza, watching children laugh and play in the golden light. She leaned her head on my shoulder, slowly licking a gelato. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Nothing," I smiled. "Just that this is nice." Ava smiled back and held the gelato up to my mouth. "Have a bite." I did. It was sweet and creamy. "Good?" she asked. "Yeah, it's perfect." She went back to her gelato. "Can we come here every year?" she asked softly. "Of course," I said, squeezing her hand. "Anywhere you want to go, we'll go." She looked up at me, her eyes shining like the first stars in the evening sky. "I love you," she said. "I know," I smiled back. "I love you too." A gentle breeze drifted through the piazza, carrying the scent of flowers. The end.